Good evening, Ariella. Thank you very much for joining us today at this Thought Leadership Series with World Tourism Forum Lucerne and World Travel Market in London. And today we're talking about biodiversity and tourism. So you are head of conservation and tourism for the Rwanda Development Organization. And one of your big success stories from Rwanda is a mountain gorilla. So maybe we can start, if you can tell us a little bit about the current status of the mountain gorillas and what you attribute the success to.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening. Very pleased to have this conversation with you. Actually, before I deep dive into your conversation, into this discussion, I just wanted to also highlight that we've just concluded an amazing annual gorilla ceremony, naming ceremony. This is a special event that we hold every year, and we were having our 16th edition to celebrate our conservation efforts. And this, of course, with gorilla conservation at the head of all conservation efforts. Particularly to your question, the gorilla population in the Virunga Massif, shared by Rwanda and other two countries, has been characterized by a significant increase for the last 2 decades. To give you an example, we had over 400 only gorillas in 2003, and now they are at 605 as per the census conducted in 2016. So this is on average a 26.5% increase, and has been a result of really strict conservation practices, which take tourism, conservation, and communities as a partnership, and that have really resulted in great successes, as we can see. And therefore, the mountain gorillas have been classified by the IUCN Red List from critically endangered to endangered in 2018. So just to give you a bit of an understanding of where we are in mountain gorillas conservation.
So both government plays a role in regulation, then I guess
Absolutely.
Industry has a leading role because they're a big stakeholder, and communities. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the respective roles of government, industry, and communities.
So governments put together these practices in consultation and collaboration with not only communities, but also conservation partners. So we have conservation partners that operate in this region. We are in a very good collaboration, and all the measures that we put in place are all in line with collaboration and consultation that we make. Therefore, seeing the interest not only of nature, but also of the people. To give you an example, the people that surround the national parks, not only the Volcanoes National Park, where you find the majestic mountain gorillas, across the country, we have a policy that promotes community livelihood improvements through tourism. So how we do this? Since 2005, tourism revenue sharing scheme was put in place, where all the revenues that we get from the parks, that we take 5% of total revenues from the parks, and are invested in community livelihood improvement projects. And these are schools, health clinics, markets, roads, and other infrastructure. And since 2017, that portion increased from 5% to 10%. And therefore, we have the communities are co-investors in nature conservation and mountain gorillas conservation. Since this project started, since this program started, we have invested over $5.5 million in community projects. These community projects are not designed by governments, they are designed by the communities themselves with the help of the local government for guidance and any other technical support.
So how did COVID impact the revenue flows? Maybe you can also give us a sense of a scale of revenue. What percentage of your conservation budget in parks come from tourism? And then how did COVID impact that?
Our conservation efforts are entirely supported by tourism. Maybe at 99.9%, if I have to put it that way, because everything that we do, most of the things that we promote in Rwanda is eco-based, is ecotourism, and therefore conservation of these natural resources is of paramount, is very important, because our tourism is mostly based on nature conservation. And therefore, it is only fair to reinvest back into conservation.
So how did COVID impact your tourism flows and consequently the negative impacts?
Well, like every other country, Rwanda has been impacted by COVID. As you probably know, we have across the world, the tourism industry is really affected. But currently what we are doing mainly is to recover from the pandemic impact. And what we're doing currently is to position our domestic and regional markets as the markets to look at right now. And we've had a great response from not only the industry leaders, the industry operators, but also the customers themselves, because they are looking for also experiences and also for travel opportunities in a world that is not entirely open. So therefore, it has come at the right time, and this is how we are responding to the impact of COVID.
So if you look at the industry best practice, you've got tour operators, you've got concessionaires. What leadership do you see coming from industry to contribute to conservation?
I'm sorry, Sean, I didn't hear the question. It did break a bit.
I'm asking about the contribution of industry to conservation and your public-private partnership model.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the industry has been a great partner in all this. As I said earlier, the industry operators have embraced our conservation policy in the sense that they have chosen to invest in these conservation areas so that they can contribute to the success of our conservation efforts. Had it not been for a good partnership between us and the industry, we wouldn't be having investors choosing Rwanda not once, not twice to bring their money to Rwanda to offer unforgettable experiences that are conservation friendly, and also that directly contribute to not only the conservation of the nature and the wildlife that we talked about, but also improving community livelihoods, and this through creation of jobs and other opportunities.
So it's an amazing good news story. The population growing, moving from the critically endangered IUCN red list to the endangered list, but it means some threats remain. The problem is not solved. So, I'm told that humans are still a greater threat than leopards for different reasons. So what threats do you see remaining?
I would say the main threat remains, first of all, we need to increase the number of the mountain gorilla population so that it can continue to thrive in its natural habitat. But the natural habitat is not increasing as much as the gorillas are increasing. And these are species that require space for the different families, the different groups. And therefore, we need to create enough space for them to reduce on the fighting for influence, for space, and for attention among themselves. That's why the government of Rwanda has embarked for the last 3 years also on a project to expand the gorilla habitat. So as I mentioned earlier, the Volcanoes National Park is home to the mountain gorillas, and therefore we've embarked on a project to increase the size of the Volcanoes National Park for these species to have more space, but also taking care of the community livelihoods. So the way we'll do it, we will have the land that we'll get from the communities through their consensus, because they see the benefits not only today but also for generations to come. As I said, it's a partnership. So once we are able to secure this space, communities as well will be able to continue their agriculture activities in a very efficient way, in an efficient use of land, but while also creating space for gorillas to reduce on the human encroachment on the vicinity of the Volcanoes National Park.
I understand the gorillas are also susceptible to human health conditions like flu and pneumonia.
Absolutely. There is scientific evidence that human respiratory diseases can affect gorillas. However, maybe to perhaps create the assurance for mountain gorillas lovers and those who really want to create a better future for gorillas, we have taken on very stringent measures and enhanced measures amidst this pandemic. For instance, our rangers, those who take care of the integrity of the national park, and also the trackers who, on a daily life, monitor this population, as well as the veterinarians, are within the lockdown period. They were locked out of the community contact. They were all, taking that sacrifice for the protection of the mountain gorillas and its habitat. In addition, as government, we started a program of regularly testing all the people who interact with them. So every 2 weeks, our staff are in the national parks are tested for COVID-19 to make sure that even if there's no currently evidence that gorillas can catch the COVID-19, but at least we are taking those measures to ensure that such diseases that have in the past, similar diseases that have in the past affected mountain gorilla populations or great apes in general, those risks can be mitigated. So we've taken those measures, and currently for people to visit gorillas, they have to have a COVID-19 negative result to be sure that there is no exposure that is being brought into their habitat. Additionally, we've increased the number of meters for visitation purposes from 7 meters to 10 meters to increase the distance further and to protect mountain gorillas. Lastly, it's mandatory to wear a surgical mask at all times when in the park. I would summarize among other measures that would choose to point out these ones. And so far, we've had good collaboration from the customers, from tourists, from the communities, and from the health organizations between the human side and the animal side to work together for conservation.
Ariella, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's a beautiful success story from our continent. And if all goes well over lockdown, I hope to visit you next year this time.
You're welcome. Rwanda is open since 1st of August. So we are waiting for you. There is a direct flight from Dubai and from London, from South Africa. So wherever you choose to fly from, Rwanda is ready for you.
Well, it's tourism that matters. It matters for the environment. It matters for communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. It's been a pleasure discussing with you.